Welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara. I'm here to welcome you into the world of orgasmic living by hosting experts to discuss orgasmic topics such as nutrition, spirituality, personal development, sexuality, and much more. Here, we will offer lifestyle lessons that can help you lead a fulfilling, joyous, and orgasmic lifestyle. I'm your guide, Venus O'Hara. Welcome to episode 84 of the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast with Venus O'Hara. In this first quarter moon episode, we discuss wellness. We speak with Nair, the founder and chairman of Leela Life, a platform for timeless Indian knowledge and wellness practices. I also review the book Orgasmic Manifestation by me, Venus O'Hara, and the episode ends with a guided meditation with affirmations for wellness. But first, let me share with you my own journey with health and wellness. Let's talk about wellness. For me, wellness is about appreciating life and expressing my gratitude for the life I have, and wanting to optimize that life as much as possible. I have become more and more conscious of wellness as I get older. It wasn't something I thought about when I was younger, and I think that's quite typical. When you're young, you think you are invincible. Well, I don't know about you, but I did anyway. I didn't think about food or health or nutrition or anything like that. I was vegetarian for most of my life just because I didn't like meat. It wasn't a health choice. It wasn't an ethical choice either. It was simply because I was fussy and meat just never appealed to me. I always left it on the plate. And then when I went to university, I just ate pizza all the time. Probably too many carbs, too much cheese. And I didn't do any sport. I didn't really like going to gyms or the idea of it. I never enjoyed moving my body that much. But then it was really when I gave up tobacco that was a big turning point for me. I remember thinking that if anything happened to me that was self-inflicted, I would feel so guilty. I mean, I've been paying for private healthcare for many, many years, and that's not something that is usual here in Spain because the public healthcare system is actually pretty good. But I had a very bad experience with a gynecologist, which I might explain in another episode, that really inspired me to go private. And it's so good going private because you have these longer appointments. You can go and see a specialist without having to wait for a referral. And if you have to go to hospital, which I did in 3 years ago, I had an ensuite room with Instagram-worthy quality, amazing food. So it's not something that you would get normally in a public hospital. So I was very glad that I'd invested for so many years in my health. When I most needed it, I definitely reaped the benefits of it. But I remember feeling very guilty about the fact that I did used to smoke tobacco. And I was thinking, imagine going to the doctor one day and having some awful diagnosis of something that I did to myself. Oh my God, how awful. And also I never used to think that I would get past a certain age because I was doing this thing to myself. And there is a history of lung cancer in my family. So I was thinking, oh my God, this is not good. But then as soon as I gave up tobacco, which was about, I think 8 years ago now, I felt so liberated. It got me, I got me inspired to actually join the gym for the first time. So something I thought I hated, I ended up loving. I used to go to classes all the time, and I especially got addicted to Body Pump. I used to love Body Pump. And if you're unfamiliar with Body Pump, it is a class of choreographed weightlifting. Well, it's very kind of all strength training. And it's kind of lightweights, but lots of repetition. It's quite hypnotic. And for example, you have a song with a warm-up, which is all over the body. Then you have, I can't remember, it's been a long time since I've been to Body Pump, but then you have a leg song, a butt song, triceps, biceps, back song. So it's all working different parts of the body. And the fact that everyone is doing the same thing to this really upbeat motivational music is really inspiring, and people get really into it as well. Some people go 3-4 times a week. I used to go about 2 or 3 times a week, and the second time I went I was thinking, oh, they're doing the same workout. I didn't understand that it was the workout and the playlist changed every 3 months or something. So it is a kind of culture, or how would I say it, it's a kind of it's a trend. It's something that is quite it's very motivating. So that's something that got me really into strength training. I gave it up because I realized that even though I was getting stronger and stronger, my body wasn't really changing that much. It only started to change when I started to go to a nutritionist and started to use machines at the gym instead. I used to feel very intimidated by that part of the gym because that's where the real serious gym bodies go. And I just felt really intimidated by other people who are in much better shape than I was. But then when I started going to these machines, I just loved it so much. I love the fact that it's, as soon as you know kind of how much weight to do, which heights to have on the different machines, it's kind of it's kind of hard to do it wrong, if you see what I mean. But also my health journey is also linked to food. I'm whole foods, plant-based, vegan. I just love eating real food, preparing real food at home. And I don't drink alcohol either. So wellness is a really big part of who I am. It's not just a habit, it's an identity thing. And I like to attract other people in my life who do practice many things to do with wellness. And wellness for me is not just about physical health, it's also mental health and growth and really honoring yourself. For example, today is a Friday, and for many people it could be a day of, let's say, having some wine and getting drunk and just letting your hair down after the week. And that was the same for me many years ago, but now it's not like that at all. I don't feel this need to escape from my life because I like my life, and wellness is an integral part of my life every single day. There's no day when I think, oh, I'm going to do this, which is not so good for my body. Well, I do have a couple of cheat meals, but even if I analyze what I'm eating, it's not even that bad, to be honest. And I have maybe 1 or 2 sugary indulgences per week, but they tend to be from artisan bakeries here in Barcelona. So it's not I wouldn't even call it processed, to be honest. So wellness is a very, very, very big part of my life. And I think it is like telling the universe that I love my life and I really want to honor it as much as possible, and also to promote longevity. Also, of course, there are no guarantees in life, but as I said before, I don't want to be the person who puts myself in any danger or any limits, because we never know how life can turn out. Sometimes you can be looking after yourself really well, and then something happens. You could have an accident or just some kind of freakish thing happens. That was the case for me when I had Bell's palsy, which I've spoken about a few times here, which I woke up one day and the left side of my face was droopy and I couldn't smile. And I ended up in the emergency room in hospital, in the waiting room, and there was a guy there who was homeless, and he had cuts and bruises all over himself. Clearly someone who doesn't look after himself through different decision making and maybe circumstances, but we ended up in the same place, which is kind of very, very, very humbling, because life can change in a second. So to try and combat all the things that can go wrong, I think it's good to have a good foundation of wellness. And I do believe that wellness is an act of self-love. It's the biggest act of self-love, in my opinion. Really looking after, how you're treating your body, how you're treating your mind and your energy. And another great thing of wellness, of course, is meditation. For me, meditation is so important as part of my daily wellness, self-love routine. And I think it's very important to check in with yourself and see how you're feeling, and honor your body, honor your goals, honor your mental health. And this podcast is devoted to wellness as a holistic self-love practice. When people hear the word orgasmic, they just think of sex, but for me it's much more than that. It's about reaching a climax in all areas of life. So really trying to optimize different areas of your life, for example, health, your personal growth, relationships, sexuality, etc. For me, I would like to get a little bit more flexible and and probably a bit more active as well. I think sometimes because I have to create a lot of content, I do probably spend too much time sitting down. And there are TED Talks about, I think I saw a TED Talk about sitting being the new smoking. So I have to kind of be aware of that sometimes. And I can get a bit sedentary. But I've started going to this gym called Barry's Boot Camp, which is an interesting experience in this room which is called a red room. And I was reading about it, like why are they doing exercise in a red room? And I think it's because the owner or the creator of it thought that your muscles look better in a red room, and he wanted to kind of create some kind of clubbing atmosphere. So I've been doing some HIIT classes in Barry's for the last couple of weeks, and I'm really enjoying it. I think in terms of sport, it's good to try different things and also do things that you enjoy. For me, it's 10,000 steps a day, a bit of salsa and some strength training, and then a bit of HIIT as well. But I'm still not kind of reaching my body goals, unfortunately. So I do have to kind of pay a bit more attention to what I'm eating, I think, and maybe increase my protein or get back to a nutritionist. But anyway, whatever is going on, I am always showing myself lots and lots of love and lots of self-compassion. So let's speak to our guest today, who's going to tell us more about his wellness project. Are you looking to strengthen your pelvic floor in a fun and engaging way? Introducing PeriFit, the pelvic floor trainer that combines biofeedback with interactive video games. With PeriFit, you can track your progress and improve your pelvic health while playing games with your vagina on your smartphone. It's easy, effective, and more importantly, it's fun. For a limited time, you can get 25% off with the code Venus15 at checkout. Visit perifit.co today and take control of your pelvic health with PeriFit. That's perifit.co and use the code Venus15 for 25% off. The link is also in the show notes below. Strengthen, play, and thrive with PeriFit. Disclaimer: consult your healthcare provider before starting any new fitness program. Now it's time for this episode's interview. We'll be speaking with Harry Nair, the founder and chairman of Leela Life, a platform for timeless Indian knowledge and wellness practices. Harry Nair, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. Thank you so much for taking part in this interview today. I'm very happy to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Namaste, Venus. Thank you very much for having me today. Yes, Venus, happy to do that. I have essentially on a journey to bring the ancient knowledge of well-being that sits in the Indian tradition across many aspects to the contemporary world, and to bring it to the service of one particular proposition, which is that the Western world and the sort of the developed world in general has many people who now face a peculiar problem. They have everything that they could typically want. There's great amounts of material prosperity, professional success, and they find themselves at a place where they find a lack, something missing. And they don't quite know. So they have different words and phrases and ideas to express that. Sometimes saying, I'm not contented, I'm not, quite there, I'm not satisfied, I'm out of sorts, etc., etc. And what I've come to the conclusion is that they don't have the secret of what in the Indian tradition is known as joy, which is very different from the Western idea of joy, I think. And so we are bringing the proposition of joy, or particularly playful joy, expressed by the Sanskrit word Leela, to the people across the world. And the purpose of bringing that is that then completes your life, and you don't feel a lack. And more importantly, it then does a whole lot of other good that transforms many other aspects of your life. So the pursuit of joy, bringing joy into your life through the wisdom of ancient India is really what I'm trying to do now.
So I'm intrigued. So what is the difference between your definition of joy and what I would understand as joy? What's the difference?
That's an interesting question. I've been trying to, so I think that, I've been sort of talking to a lot of people trying to understand the Western definition of joy. And what I've realized is that I think in the United States, for example, I think the idea of joy is related to a kind of set of emotions.
Uh-huh.
So you feel good, you feel joyful, and then, there's an exuberance, there's an idea of excitement. All of those kind of things are associated with joy. Joy being closely associated with emotion.
Okay.
In the Indian tradition, joy is a state.
Okay.
Emotions are transient. So happiness, for example, which is a product of emotion, is transient. So you are happy at some point, you're unhappy at another point, and it keeps changing. Joy, on the other hand, in the Indian tradition, is a state you're in, independent of the emotions, independent of the situation you find yourself in, etc., etc. So joy is, the way it's defined in the Indian tradition, is that it's that thing that makes you engage with life, intensely engage with life, irrespective of the context and circumstance that you find yourself in.
That's perfect. So it's like a real inner peace, sense of inner peace, I guess.
It's inner peace. It's an inner peace with a sense of anticipation.
Okay, I like it. Anticipation of something good happening, I suppose.
Yeah, something is going to happen. Well, it's not necessarily about the good or the bad. It's really about the something, my intention to engage intensely with what life has to offer. It actually, I think, arises out of the deeper sort of understanding that the great miracle that we are experiencing at the moment is life itself. And therefore, engaging with life is what it's all about. And it does not matter whether, what exactly we believe life is bringing to us at this moment, whether it is happiness or sorrow or, whatever, right? So, and one of the ways in which that can be judged is the attitude with which you wake up, for example.
Okay.
And it's often the case that we wake up and then the back of our mind, we know today is going to be a good day for whatever reasons that we're aware of, or that it's going to be a difficult day. And very often when it's a difficult day, some of us would have noticed that we kind of shrink a little bit. We don't really want to face that day, right? I wish it was over and I got on to another better day. Joy, on the other hand, is a state that allows you to engage with all kinds of days with the same degree of intensity. And I think that is the underlying idea of joy that there is in the Indian tradition. And Leela, particularly, an even more interesting idea. It's a subtler twist on that idea, which is saying you approach that whole thing, but to the degree of playfulness. You see life not as this, incredible weight on your shoulder, but something a whole lot, lighter. And so you enter it with anticipation, you engage with it intensely, but a little lightly. Yeah, so that's the difference.
So you created a platform called Leela Life. Could you tell us more about that? What inspired you to create this platform and what we can find there and how long it's been around for?
So it's very new. In fact, we haven't even really formally launched it. So you're one of the early people to have a sneak peek at it. And so that's where we're at. We've been working on it for quite some time. I've been working on this. Well, I've been working on the idea of this idea that I just described to you for over a decade now. And it came out of my professional background and my watching people struggle with this difficulty of having everything but not having that last bit. But the actual translation of that to the platform, we started working on it a couple of years, about 2.5 years ago. And I've got a team that's across the world now. Different competencies. There are technology people, there are communications people, all kinds of people. And what it does is it does two things. One, so essentially, it's a platform that allows you to access all of the wisdom that's available for you to bring joy into your life from the Indic tradition, what I call the Indic tradition. Indic tradition really refers to ancient Indian tradition, right? So it's a platform, it's one place where you can find it. So what can you find there? So you can find two broad sets of things there. One, you can find courses and products that you can buy. So you can actually learn from specialists back in India, or you can get unique products that are relevant for bringing into your life to bring a sense of this kind of joy that I'm referring to. So one is a set of offerings that you have available that you can access, right? Some of them are courses which you can learn, or some of them are products that you can access and buy. The second aspect of the platform is a set of tools that help you figure out what is it that you should buy, or what is it that you should integrate into your life, right? Because that's often the question, because I've opened up this entire can of all of this goodies from the world of the Indic knowledge, but that can be overwhelming, right? And so how do I find what I really need? So that's a set of tools. So that set of tools primarily sort of enables you to do two or three things. One, it enables you to discover the essential nature that you have. Every human being in the Indic tradition is supposed to have a unique and essential nature. So there's a tool that enables you to find what kind of a person, what is my essential nature. The second is a tool that enables you to figure out how aligned my life today is to my essential nature. So you get my point? So the second one is my life aligned to who I am, or is my life out of whack? Is the daily life that I do not aligned to the kind of person I am? And the third tool is, okay, if it's misaligned, what kind of capacities can I build so that I can solve for this misalignment? So those are the tools. So you have three tools. You can do them in sequence. You can do them just one at a time, and then see how that's playing out for you, etc., etc. But all of them to help you figure out what you need to, what courses you could potentially, learn, and what products you could potentially use in your life to bring joy.
Is it like a quiz that's free that you can do, so you can discover more?
On the second part, you're talking about the tools.
Yeah.
No, the tools are a little bit more elaborate than that. So it's not as simple as it seems. So you actually go through. So all the courses, for example, are all one-to-one courses that you actually do with specialists back in India. These are highly curated, specialists who have significant lineage in that, right? So you actually do one-to-one classes with them. Similarly, when you do these tools, we have guides. So you do a one-to-one with them, and they help you. So there is some question answers of the quiz variety that you do, but you also have one or two conversations with people. And so that all of that adds up to you getting a very deep understanding of yourself. Quizzes tend to be a bit, unidimensional. So they're not really able to find the real you. They're kind of simplistic. They're useful tools to start on a journey, but they're really not that useful to get to the essence of things and then to be able to decide what you should really have in your life. So it's a little bit more than that. So you will fill up you will do some quizzes, but you will also meet a guide and then go through that process. So and there is the initial part of that is a free 15-minute consultation, and then post that, depending on how you want to proceed, then there are price points for the various tools.
Okay, so it's actually a range of one-on-one courses with experts. It's not like a course that you download and do on your own time. You're guided by a human. Is that correct?
Correct. You fix a time on the platform, and there's an actual person who's had 40 years, possibly the seventh generation in that particular thing, back in India. And then you fix a time, and then you actually have a consultation of this kind. Actually, not just consultation, but actually learning. So you can actually learn, for example, you can learn something to do with art. You could have something to do with, let's say, a a course that combines martial arts with yoga. I'm just giving you different types of courses that you can have. So yeah, so there's a whole range of those courses that you do, and you do them one to one. The person sees you do stuff, corrects you as you go along. It's a very personalized, individualized, rather high touch kind of thing.
Okay, so do you actually pay for individual courses, or you get a subscription? Is it an individual course that you would pay for?
You would pay for individual courses. So what we do is we help you build a program. So the first conversation that you do will start to direct you towards building a program. A program typically means a combination of two courses, or maybe sometimes three, and some products, right? And so the products you can of course buy at your convenience, and you can even go to multiple places. We just give you the advice, and then we send you off to different places to be able to access the products. The courses are on our platform, so you actually have a package of 2 or 3 courses, and typically all of the programs are for 3 months, out of which the courses are for 2 months. So 8 weeks or 4 weeks courses, and you pay for each of those courses separately, but there's a total. So therefore, at the beginning of the program, you will know what is the total cost you will incur for the total program, because you know which courses you're going to do, what's the cost of that, and so there's a total cost that you can arrive at.
And could you tell us what the courses are? The categories?
So there are there are 5 broad categories in which in the whole framework of Indic well-being. Okay, and you will find courses inside all of them. So the first one is eat right, because we believe that everything starts with eating right? And so you will find that, and you will find courses that teach you different aspects of eating right, and the skills that you need to have, and all kinds of things relating to that. So you'll find a bunch of very interesting courses on the platform. Second is think calm, right? So again, there are a bunch of areas, from the more obvious areas like meditation and Raja Yoga, to a bunch of other areas that are all designed to help you, arrive at a place of thinking calm. Again, you will find courses of various kinds under that category. So if you go to the site and you look up Think Calm, you will find a whole bunch of courses that you could do. And the third is rejoice in art. So we believe that art is a critical component of, not just we believe, but actually Indian tradition strongly propagates the idea that art has to be a critical component of building up a human being's ability to find well-being and joy. And so art is a significant component in the way we think about the framework. So again, art has its own space in the website. So you will actually go there and say rejoice in art, and it will actually give you courses, and it will actually give you both insight courses as well as practices that you can learn. So if you go into that, so that's the third one, rejoice in art. The fourth one is live on land. Essentially, bring nature. Bring nature into your life, right? Whether it's the sun, whether it's the soil, whether it's animals, bring nature into your life. And then again, you will learn fascinating, things, again, insights courses and practice courses, for you to be able to figure out how to bring nature into your life, especially for those of us who live in cities. And, it's a challenge at all times to be able to sort of bring nature into our life. So there's a set of courses that help you think about that, understand that, and products and services and stuff that can help you. So again, you should take a look at the website. You'll get a good sense of what's possible. So that's the fourth. And the fifth one is a sort of an omnibus thing called Smile. And inside Smile, you'll actually, and inside Smile, you'll actually find 3 small subcategories. First is personal care and fitness. So essentially looking good is one part of Smile. The second part of Smile is intimacy, and ensuring that you get your your life of intimacy in place. And the third is spirituality. And so these 3 dimensions are sort of bundled into the idea called Smile. So these are the five broad areas within which you will find practices, you will find insights courses, practices courses, and products on the website.
Amazing. So are there any plans for in-person retreats in India?
Yes, I think one of the things we're going to do is as we build this out, we're clearly going to, we're going to have in-person, so the first set of things that we're going to do is to actually bring some of our courses and some of our people to the US, so that it's easy for people to access, right, initially. But we will also have retreats and other sort of physical events that you can participate in back in India as well. Remember one thing though, that we are essentially all about helping you integrate these things into your lifestyle, your daily life. So we are not interested in giving you something and then disappearing from the scene, because I think that's one of the difficulties in people being able to do this transformation, is that they find something, they do it, the person who's given it to them is no more there, right? It's over. And so they kind of struggle with it. So we are going to be with the person for a long time. And you can then have us available to sort of, to help you navigate this as you go along, instead of just having these individuals. So what we do is, so we look at programs as I said, in blocks of 3 months. And so we will be available throughout with you. So for example, in a particular 3-month period, you found a certain set of objectives, you set out with a certain set of objectives, and you feel that, I've reached, let's say 70%. And then you want to go to the next thing. So we can then together craft which direction that the next 3 months should go. And it need not necessarily be that you have to do a full program in the next 3 months. It might be, okay, you know what? I think this is the area that I want to focus on for another 3 months, and so on and so forth. So essentially our approach here is, we are not the seller of courses. We're not the aggregator of courses. We are the sort of, what we call the enlightened and empathetic friend who's with you in the journey of helping you transform. So we're going to be with you.
So it's like a guided process.
That's right. It's going to, and guided, and we're going to be with you. So, so it's not that we'll, teach you 3 things and then we'll disappear from the scene. But, we will help you, and we will be aware of what's going on, with you. So we're not going to leave you just with the 3 specialists. Leela Life is going to have that continuity of, knowing what you've gone through and what is that you got out of it, and, helping you navigate as you keep going forward. So we are about actually helping you transform, making that happen.
It's really important. Yeah, application. And I've really been attracted to a lot of Indian culture throughout my life. I love yoga. I love kirtan. I love the mantras. I'm a vegan, so I love Indian food as well. And I also am interested in sacred sexuality, but I think there's a lot of like Indian cultured things that have been packaged for the West in a way that might not be authentic. And I have a lot of Indian friends who tell me this as well. So I found it's really interesting how you packaged these ideas. It seemed very unique. Were you aware of this, about, different Indian traditions coming to the West and how they've been very visible and maybe losing authenticity from what the true message is?
Yes, I mean, obviously, I've been very interested in it, in this whole thing, and I had a life as a management consultant, for a long time, and so traveled across the world, did work. So was also able to participate in some ways in the Western sort of way of Indian tradition, see it up close. Yeah. So for example, whether it's Tantra in Berlin or, yoga in the US or whatever, right? So I've seen some of that. So I do have some sense of where it's got to, some reasonably good sense, I would say, of where it's got to. But having said that, I come from a family that's fairly rooted in tradition here in India. And of course, my own personal journey has been very much rooted in tradition as well. So I do understand, I think, the gap. I find that interesting. I find the presence of that gap an interesting problem to solve. And I think it arises out of a good reason, which is that Indian tradition is often, so Indian tradition has two components. And this is something that I've spent a lot of time before I got to this understanding, which is that when you pick something from the Indian tradition, you pick knowledge, and then you pick culture. And they're actually different things. And it's just that the packaging of many of those things is so interwoven that most people are unable to distinguish between the essential knowledge that is there in what is being communicated and what's a cultural context that's evolved over time in the land called India. Right? So they're two different things. So the intention here is to really go to the essence of the knowledge, not necessarily to transmit culture as it exists or existed in the Indian context to other parts of the world. Because, we start from this point, and actually the Indian knowledge system actually starts from a very profound place of respect. It starts from a place of respecting all other contexts and all other cultures, and then says that here is this knowledge, and you now need to figure out how to use this knowledge in your context. This is the sort of cardinal sort of way in which Indian knowledge has always historically approached the problem of dissemination of knowledge. So what that means is that, for example, let's take food, for example, right? The underlying principles and the knowledge relating to food is what we are taking to the world, not the food that you got to eat. Because that's, and I live in India, and I can tell you, if you go to the northern part of India and if you come to the southern end where I am staying now, the food is actually very different. It all comes from the same common knowledge pool, but the food is extremely different. But the underlying principles are absolutely the same. And therefore, the principles and the knowledge is what we are taking to the world. So the reason I'm saying all of this is because I think the authenticity comes when you're able to extract that pure knowledge and enable people to find how that knowledge can be applied in their context. The lack of authenticity comes when you take the cultural constructs and then they get mixed because, a cultural construct from one completely different culture cannot survive in that way in another culture. By definition, it's not possible, right? Your climate is different, your context is different, your thinking is different, so many things. And so I think the existence of that gap partly is because culture was also part of the dissemination. And in our Leela life approach, we are trying to be as close to the dissemination of essential knowledge as possible, the principles, more than the sort of cultural aspects. And so that's one of the ways in which we think that we can add a lot of authenticity to what we are giving without making it difficult for people of different cultures to access and to use.
I found that the platform seemed very accessible for people who might not be into, let's say, spirituality or all the other things that Indian culture is known for. I found it's more saying lifestyle, and everyone wants to improve their lifestyle. And then it seems like it's presented in a very different way from what you would expect an Indian lifestyle platform to be. And things like joy and smile and what to eat. That's because these are things that affect all lives, no matter what your disciplines you are following.
Yeah, no, it's not. One part of it is that it's obviously designed to help people find it accessible. I think that's definitely one part of it. But I must tell you, there's a deeper point, which is that actually, if you go deep into Indian knowledge and try to distill it down, you will find it's actually pretty simple but profound approach to the day-to-day. It's not just there's very esoteric stuff in the Indian tradition. I'm not saying it's not there. It is there. But remember that esoteric stuff in the Indian tradition is one part of the Indian tradition. But there's a large part, maybe a vast majority, which is actually about living the day to day. So let me give you a sense of this, right? So for example, as I went into this in a lot of depth, I realized that the Indian tradition actually looks at human beings as four types. And then says, you pick the one out of this that is you and go for it. Okay. Incidentally, this is not ever mentioned, but it's actually a deep assumption in all the texts and all the practices and everything. The four types are: one, the ascetic or the monk, right? A lot of the yogic tradition actually is relevant for the ascetic or the monk. The second type of person is the warrior, the king, the person who's out there, fighting the world, all of that physical strength and, all of that, the warrior. The third is the householder, the person who, and that's a technical term in Sanskrit, we call it grihastha, the person who's engaging, in the day-to-day of life, who's running who's got a family, who's just trying to be a good person and who's just trying to lead a good life. And the fourth is the lover, the person who's, and you can be all of this at different points in time, but your entire life can be seen through the prism of what's the dominant state that you see yourself in at this point. And therefore you look at that. So a lot of the esoteric things that we refer to come from traditions that are designed actually for the first, the ascetic or the monk. But because it's so esoteric, there's a certain, gravity for it, and everybody's very much interested in it. And, so Indian tradition tends to get a rather, people have the sense that it is by definition esoteric. It's not. It's actually very profound and deep-rooted in the daily life as well. So the website goes into all of these things because they also are a good reflection and an accurate reflection of the underlying and the deep Indian knowledge.
Fantastic. Could you give 3 tips to our listeners about how to live a more Indic life?
Yeah, I think the first is don't obsess about it.
Okay.
It cuts across in all our texts that at the end of it, the sense that you have to be, a little playful with life. And let life be and let you be is a kind of an idea. And I'm obviously paraphrasing from various places, but this idea that you have to be light is a big idea in the Indian tradition, right? That's one. That to me is a very cardinal idea. The second is that your well-being is always holistic. It's a balance of the multiple. It's never, take this thing and, crash all barriers and go far with it. Need not be the way to have a rounded, holistic balance of the multiple is really the best way to find your well-being. So that's another very deep idea that pervades in all things in tradition. So look for your balance of the multiple. For you, art might be very interesting. For you, the sense of beauty might be very interesting. For somebody else, spirituality might be very interesting. For a third person, fitness might be interesting. And so you find all these various things that work for you and put them together and experiment with them and find the balance that works for you in all of that. So that is the balance. And the last point is, you are unique and your sense of well-being is unique. And therefore, everything has to be individualized. There is no singular way of achieving well-being. And so it is all individualized. So find your path. So what we talked about the fact that it's a multiplicity. Now we are saying it's your multiplicity. First is be light, find the play in the joy. Second is find your balance in the multiple. The third is find your path. And so if you focus on these 3 things, Indic tradition says you will find that one day that you are more joyful and you're always in joy than otherwise. So it's never the outcome. It's journey, and you will find the journey change character as you go forward to get your joy.
It sounds great. So, how far are you from actually launching now? Is it launched already, or?
So we've not formally launched it, but we've got lots of friends now, sort of, and friends of friends and so on. You know how these things are. So we put it out there honestly. And we just talked to a bunch of friends, and then it's taken a life of its own. But we're still very below the radar. It's small interactions that we're doing just about now, and this is one of the early interactions that I'm having where we're talking about this. So I think we expect to launch in a few months' time, very formally in a big way. But honestly, that looks more and more like a formality, because I think just as people is finding it and participating. Yeah, so that's where we find ourselves now.
And have you been testing the courses yourself?
But yes, I mean, we tested between me, my co-founder, and a bunch of other people. We kind of test almost everything. So the curation is a pretty big process for us, because we now have about 100 and odd specialists on our platform, and a similar number of products, and that's come down from our original list of 2,500 specialists. So we went from 2,500 specialists to 140 odd specialists. We might take a few more, but it's a fairly aggressive curation, because we believe that we really want to have the right people on the quality of the kind that we're very that we believe reflects the depth of what we have understood is the Indian knowledge. We want to make sure that that's the right thing that we provide.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, because otherwise for a user it'd be very confusing if you've got 2,500 specialists.
Yeah, and numbers have no meaning in this, right? It's really about the power of the right person, and the right person can transform your life. You can do 20 courses, but nothing happens. But I mean, we've had instances where people have done two sessions and then just said, it's just made all the difference in our lives already. They've gone on, done the rest of it. So yeah, so satisfied at this point, excited, I think, because I think a lot of people coming back to us with a lot of ideas, and like the retreats thing that you mentioned and many other things we are talking about. We are considering, what I call sort of small communities that we can build, physical communities that we can build near the big cities in America, for example. So let's say upstate New York, where we have a small place where people could plug in when they have the time. Maybe they could, it's all still being thought through as we speak. But so maybe all our specialists, sort of spend a month in a year in that place, and so all the people in New York could potentially have access to that, and so on and so forth. So very exciting.
Amazing. A couple of quick questions for you that I ask everyone on my podcast. What is the book that changed your life?
I would say the Upanishads.
Which one, sorry?
So we have in the Indic tradition, there's something called the Upanishads. The Upanishads are a series of books called Vedanta. Vedanta is what it's called, and so there are a series of books, and they essentially codify the knowledge, right? And it's and the summary of that can be found in another book called the Bhagavad Gita. I don't know whether you've heard of the Gita, but Bhagavad Gita is actually quite it's a summary book, and a lot of people refer to that. But for me, the books that made a big impact were the Upanishads in total. I spent, I think, I spent a few years in the early part reading the Upanishads, and actually didn't get a word of. I didn't understand anything. Then I had to come back many years later, and I spent 3-4 years reading it, and it changed my life. So it's not the classic answer to the question of which is a book that changed your life, but it's actually the text that changed my life. It's profound. It's incredible, and it's a codification of deep knowledge, scientific knowledge. I must tell you this. One of the little books on that. It's a 16-page booklet. is one of the Upanishads, is actually about it's about conception of a human being. How does a human being get born? Remember, this was done 3,000 years ago.
Wow.
So from that to extreme spirituality to everything is combined in one corpus of texts called Upanishads. Extraordinary stuff.
How do we spell
Changed my
that?
life in many ways.
How can I spell
Upanishads. UPA.
UPA?
NI. UPA
Uh-huh.
NISHA.
Uh-huh.
DS. Upanishads. D for Delhi. D for Denver. Upanishads.
Okay, exciting. So I'm going to look that up. I'm a big reader, as you can see. I always ask my guests
Yes.
about the book that changed their lives, because reading can just be so powerful.
Yeah, indeed. And Upanishads you will enjoy. I'm absolutely certain. So,
perfect. So which phrase or affirmation do you live by? Is there a quote that you live by?
there is one. It's a little. So this is actually said by a guru, a very very ancient guru. When you went to ask him a question, you went to ask him any question, he would answer with a question, and that question was always the same. The question he would ask you is, who is asking this question? And I'll tell you what that means. It's actually the central proposition in the Upanishads. Upanishad says that this is not you.
Uh-huh.
And how do we know that this is not you? Because there is somebody inside who's able to see this you, right?
Yeah.
There's somebody who's observing, saying, "Oh, I'm happy today. I'm sad today, and something." And there's somebody inside us observing ourselves, right? You would have experienced that in your own life, right? So there's somebody inside, and that somebody who's inside is the immutable I, is the person who will remain once this is gone, and so on. And, so that's the I. So through that question, he would pass on the wisdom of the Upanishads by, whenever you went to the doubt, he would ask you, who's asking that question? And then you would say, it's I that's asking that question. How do you know it's the I that's asking that? I mean, which I? And takes you back to this thing. So it's a little question, but it's a very profound way of seeing the world. Who's asking the question? Which is really helping you sort of detach the essential I from this, and so I find that a very very interesting sort of phrase that keeps coming back to me when I'm out there, as they say, in dealing with life on a day-to-day basis, is to take me back to the Upanishads by asking that question: who's asking?
So what would be the answer to that? It sounds like a bit of a riddle. Like, for example, are you asking?
The answer is the essential you, which is so typically people find it very so this concept of saying there's somebody other than this who is the I is not. I mean, now we find it relatively easy to understand that, right? So I wake up in the morning, I observe myself. So there's somebody else who's observing me, and that somebody else is the true me, is the sum and substance of what Upanishads talks about. What it also then goes on to say is that that's immutable, that doesn't die, and you can use words like soul and so on and so forth, but essentially says that that's the immutable thing, and therefore everything that happens to you is simply a function of your senses working with the mind and so on and so forth. So don't get too hassled by it, don't get too attached by it, because there's another you which is observing all of this, where nothing happens to that you, and that you remains forever. That's a spiritual sort of lesson, and it's a spiritual direction, and deep yogic practice, for example, starts to give you some sense of that, some perception of that difference between this you, I, and that this thing. So the question is not a riddle; it's simply a way of reminding you that the true you is actually not the one that's getting, enormously anxious about the fact that the train is going to be 10 minutes late or whatever. So,
Okay. Okay. So where can people find you?
I visit the US. I'm based in India, so I'm available, online to talk and to discuss and keep having these conversations. But I also visit the US every quarter.
Mhm.
So I'm available typically in New York City uh, every once about 2 to 3 weeks every quarter. So I'm happy to meet people when I'm there, but I'm available online. My email ID is hari at Leela Life, HARI at leelalife.com. And I'm happy to take emails, respond to them. And of course, I'm available on all, LinkedIn and, what have you, all the social media.
And would you like to share the
Yeah.
website, Leela Life,
Yes.
Leela?
Yeah. The website is leelalife.com, Leela, Leela, life, life.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast. It's been a pleasure, and we'll be applying these lessons to our lives. Lots of joy.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Venus.
Thank you. The book I'm reading now is Orgasmic Manifestation by me. Well, this book will be out in the autumn, and I have to read it this weekend just to approve the final layout, which is really interesting because it's a thing. It started off as a Word document, then it got sent to a corrector, and I had to approve the suggested corrections, and now it's been transformed into a proper PDF document that's with a proper book format, with the copyright things at the beginning, etc., and the publishing date. So it all feels very real, and I can't even believe that I actually wrote a book this year. It seems a bit surreal, and it just feel very, very surreal. And I do believe that I channeled this book. I didn't really write it. It was just coming out. My fingers just didn't stop. And the inspiration was just non-stop. And the topic of orgasmic manifestation is something that I hold very dearly in my heart. But as I've probably mentioned here before, I do think it's I don't talk about it as much as I would like, because it's like bringing two taboo topics together. And you have to think, is the person I'm speaking to going to be open to this? Because obviously sexuality is very taboo for many people, but the esoteric topics of, let's say, manifestation or maybe witchcraft can be very far out for some people, and it can just seem very weird. And people can think you've lost your mind if you start talking about using orgasm to manifest and sexual energy. But for me, it's been a very, very transformative discovery that I wanted to share with the world. And also in my book, I am sharing many non-sexual manifestation techniques and adding a sexual component to them. For example, I speak about affirmations, binaural beats, and journaling, and different practices that are related to also sigils, which is kind of like making symbols that represent your desire. So many things, and also essential oils and crystals. So it's a kind of a very holistic expression of sex magic. It's not just about the sex part. It's a lot of emphasis on the build up as well, and celebration. So you can imagine you've already got what you are wishing for, which is very powerful as well. But in this book, I have to actually translate now to English, because I'm going to publish the English version, because I wrote it in Spanish. I'm going to publish the English version probably in November. I wanted to read a little extract to you, which is from the chapter on sex magic with a partner. And it says this: I have always perceived the act of penetration as a magical moment, particularly when a deep emotional bond is forged between the lovers. It is an intimate dance, a sublime fusion where two bodies intertwine to form a single entity, exploring the depth of their connection and channeling the energy of a celestial force together. It is an almost indescribable experience, imbued with pure and enigmatic magic. Wow. I was actually going through the corrections of that, and I read that in Spanish, and I was like, wow, that's really good, because I'd had a few weeks to actually disconnect from the document. So it was great to see it with a more objective viewpoint, and I was like, wow, that's pretty good. I'm going to translate that to English, and that's the result. So I'm looking forward to seeing how the rest of the book turns out in English, and I cannot wait to share it with you here, and you'll be the first to know when it comes out. So that is Orgasmic Manifestation by me, Venus O'Hara, coming very soon. Now it's time to slow things down as we prepare for this episode's guided affirmations meditation. It's probably not a good idea to listen to this while driving or operating machinery. Instead, take a break from whatever you're doing, get comfortable, take a deep breath, and enjoy. I am committed to my journey of wellness. I cultivate wellness through healthy choices. Inner peace is my foundation. My energy is limitless. I am healthy and strong. I am full of energy. Wellness is my natural state. I am committed to my journey of wellness. I cultivate wellness through healthy choices. My body is a temple of well-being. I radiate vibrant energy. I am balanced and calm. I am worthy of self-care. Wellness is my natural state. I am committed to my journey of wellness. I cultivate wellness through healthy choices. I am grounded and centered. Each day, I grow stronger and healthier. I embrace restful sleep. Peace begins with me. Wellness is my natural state. I am committed to my journey of wellness. I cultivate wellness through healthy choices. Every cell in my body vibrates with health. I choose health and happiness. I am in tune with my body. I am at peace with myself. Wellness is my natural state. I am committed to my journey of wellness. I cultivate wellness through healthy choices. Balance comes easily to me. Calmness fills my mind. I am glowing with vitality. I am resilient and thriving. Wellness is my natural state. I am committed to my journey of wellness. cultivate wellness through healthy choices. I embrace wellness in mind, body, and spirit. My actions align with my wellness goals. I am nourished and fulfilled. I am whole and complete. Wellness is my natural state. Are you looking to strengthen your pelvic floor in a fun and engaging way? Introducing PeriFit, the pelvic floor trainer that combines biofeedback with interactive video games. With PeriFit, you can track your progress and improve your pelvic health while playing games with your vagina on your smartphone. It's easy, effective, and more importantly, it's fun. For a limited time, you can get 25% off with the code Venus15 at checkout. Visit perifit.co today and take control of your pelvic health with PeriFit. That's perifit.co and use the code Venus15 for 25% off. The link is also in the show notes below. Strengthen, play, and thrive with PeriFit. Disclaimer: consult your healthcare provider before starting any new fitness program. To find out more about me and my orgasmic lifestyle, visit venusohara.org or follow me on Instagram at instagram.com/venusohara. Make sure to search for the Orgasmic Lifestyle Podcast by Venus O'Hara in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Make sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Thanks for listening, have an orgasmic week, and make sure every day is a climax.